All right, and welcome back to Quarantini number 4. Today we're going to make what I call the Vance in the Pants. It is named after my good friend Katie Vance, who has the second coolest car in our building. For this episode, I'm going to change the format around a little bit. I'm just going to go straight into making the drink. For those of you who don't care too much about the background. And then after we make the drink, I'm going to go into kind of the thought behind it and what all the ingredients are doing with each other. So let's start. All right, so for this drink, we're going to have vodka, specifically Chopin, Aperol, lemon juice, and this time we have Prosecco, which is a type of Italian sparkling wine that's a little bit sweeter than something like champagne. I'm actually going to try this to do this a little bit differently from what I normally do. It's the same ingredients, just preparing it a little bit differently. And obviously we have ice to shake the drink with, a shaker, a measuring jigger. And this time, instead of a martini glass, we have a wine glass, and I already put wine in it, or I already put ice in it, because we're going to need ice for the drink. So this is a pretty simple one, actually. So we're going to start with 2 1/4 ounces of the Chopin. So this is pure potato vodka. A lot of vodka is made with other ingredients, and actually I need the ice in here, like wheat or something like that. But Chopin actually makes it with potatoes. Gives it kind of a little bit of an earthy flavor. And then I'm actually going to skip over the Aperol. That's the difference that I'm going to try out, and go straight to the lemon. 3/4 ounce of the lemon. And that is actually it. You don't put Prosecco in a shaker, because think of what will happen if you start shaking a carbonated drink. Not good stuff. So just that, I'm going to put in and shake up. And I'm going to pour this into our glass. And I probably should have actually had a little bit extra ice in here, just so it fills up. We can do this. And then what I'm going to do is put Prosecco in it. And then finally, the last thing, I'm just going to try this out, is around, I don't know, between 1/2 and 3/4 ounce of the Aperol. The reason I'm doing this last is I'm thinking that it might make kind of a nice, not quite incorporated look. Yeah. So if I had put the Aperol in with the shaker and shaked it, of course, you know, the vodka and the lemon and the Aperol would all become incorporated, homogeneous. But by doing it this way, I have a nice little kind of effect going on. It looks good. I don't know if it's going to affect the flavor. You know, you have kind of, it looks like you have a lot of Aperol sitting at the bottom. But we can see how this is. So there's a close-up of the Vance in the Pants. It looks pretty good. Let's try it out. So before we taste it, a note on one of the best things about the Vance in the Pants. It's that you open an entire bottle of Prosecco and you use maybe 2 or 3 ounces, and you're left with the rest of the bottle as your side drink to go with your Vance in the Pants. And really, I mean, nothing goes with the existential dread that comes with the end of the world due to a viral pandemic, quite like an entire bottle of wine to yourself, alone, in your apartment, with no one else, just your thoughts about the decisions you made in your life that got you to this point. Or maybe it's not the decisions, maybe it's just you. Maybe you're just a fundamentally broken human being. Okay, so let's taste it. It's gonna be pretty boozy. There's a lot of booze in it, and it's good. It's definitely unlike, way unlike the other drinks that we made. The first three. As far as tasting notes, strength. I don't know, a 6. Not too strong, actually, considering. So I imagine this could probably really hit you pretty hard if you had the whole thing. Sweetness, not very sweet at all. The only sweetness really comes from the Prosecco. We'll talk about that. Sourness, it's actually fairly sour. Prosecco has, a wine person I'm sure will be able to explain what that taste is, but this Prosecco provides some of that. And obviously the lemon is going to provide some of the sourness. Bitter, maybe just a tiny little bit. Again, I'm sure a wine person can explain to you what's going on with that kind of bitter sensation. But it's a good drink, it's refreshing. Obviously it's carbonated because of the Prosecco. And a little bit about like why it works or how it works. So would you believe me if I told you that this is a distant cousin to the Old Fashioned? You might not, but if you remember from yesterday, I basically said that there's 6 or so cocktails that exist in the world, and all the other ones are just riffs off of those 6. So think about an Old Fashioned. What's an Old Fashioned? Well, for those who don't know, it's bourbon, sugar, and bitters, oftentimes with a garnish of like an orange peel or some sort of citrus peel. So let's break that down into what each of those things are doing. So the base alcohol, the bourbon, obviously provides the main characteristics of the drink, provides the alcohol, and it's really what the Old Fashioned is all about. But bourbon, no matter how good it is can be tough to drink. It kind of fights you a little bit. So you have the sugar to take a bit of the edge off. And then you have the bitters, which acts as a seasoning, really, just like salt and pepper and bay leaf and basil would go in food. You have bitters in a drink. In fact, there probably is like a bay leaf basil bitters out there somewhere. And then you have the garnish of the citrus peel, the twist, that just provides a little bit of extra to brighten it up. And when I talk about, well, so you say you riff on a drink. Well, so what are the things that you can do to riff on it, on a cocktail? Well, you can, the smallest things you can do are just change the proportions. So if you want your Old Fashioned to be a little bit sweeter, obviously add some more of the sugar. If you want more of the seasoning, add more of the bitters. And then you can change it up by actually changing the actual ingredients. So you can do that in small ways, like changing the bourbon that you used from one to another, changing the type of sweetener. You can use simple syrup. You can use the Demerara gum syrup that I had before. You can use just a sugar cube or granulated sugar. And then you can change it up in really big ways. Instead of using bourbon, you can use rye, or you can use tequila, or you can use gin. Instead of simple syrup, you use maple syrup or something like that. So let's take a look at the Vance in the Pants. So it is a base alcohol, right? We have, just like in an Old Fashioned. Then what else is an Old Fashioned? You need something to sweeten it up. Well, you could go real crazy and use something like Prosecco, which has some sweetness to it. And instead of just sugar, you're using Prosecco. And then you need something to flavor it, to add the seasoning. Well, that's kind of, if you ever had just straight up Aperol, or even smelled it, that's basically what Aperol is. And then instead of just garnishing with an orange twist or a lime twist or a lemon twist or whatever, we're actually putting a fair amount of lemon in it. So this is a distant cousin of an Old Fashioned, and it works pretty well. So that's it. That's the Vance in the Pants. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you can donate to the link that I provide in the notes, that'd be great. And April 1st, we will do a virtual happy hour. I'll send out a Facebook invite or something like that. Because what else are you gonna do? So Happy quarantine, everyone. Stay safe and stay sane. Good night.